Yes, in the back.
Thank you. The House of Representatives has passed a resolution that condemns Russia's actions in Ukraine, but it actually goes further than that. It pronounces Russia as an authoritarian regime, and there's a bunch of other things that is in that resolution. I wonder where you stand on this resolution, and also how does this resolution contribute to making things better? I mean, does the administration want to make things better?
Well, I think when you've heard, first of all, Secretary Kerry and Foreign Minister Lavrov met today. Just a quick readout of that meeting, and then I will get to your questions. They had a wide-ranging discussion. They talked about Iran first, discussed plans for representatives of the P5+1 in Iran to meet in the coming weeks, talked about the next step in the talks, talked about the ongoing crisis in Syria, whether it's possible to create conditions for a serious conversation about political transition. The Secretary provided an update on the anti-ISIL coalition conference in Brussels. And they also talked about Ukraine, discussed ongoing efforts to negotiate a ceasefire, and the Secretary urged a return to serious discussions about full implementation of Minsk. So if you listen to Secretary Kerry, I think every time he talks about this, he says there is a diplomatic off-ramp here for Russia. He's repeatedly said that. We meet with the Russians and talk about this constantly. So if Russia takes steps to live up to its obligations, to pull its folks out of eastern Ukraine, to implement Minsk fully and stop stonewalling on parts of it, then there's a path forward here. I haven't seen the House resolution, to be candid with you. We've expressed our concern, of course, about the shrinking space for dialogue, for legitimate forms of opposition in Russia. We've said that repeatedly over many, many months. But again, I haven't seen the exact details of that resolution.
So you're not familiar. Well, some people called it declaration of Cold War against Russia because of the
well,
many
I haven't
points
seen the resolution. And again, the President and the Secretary have spoken at length about this issue, about the fact that we don't want this kind of relationship with Russia. But the relationship we have today is a direct result of Russian activity, of Russian incursions into eastern Ukraine, moving tanks, moving people, moving weapons. Those are things in direct contravention of international law. So the relationship we have today is because Russia has chosen to go down a certain path. If they go down a different one, we'll have a different relationship.
So one of the things that this resolution calls to do, it calls to expand broadcasting in Ukrainian and Russian languages to counter quote-unquote Russian propaganda. Mm-hmm. Is this part of a fight for influence? How do you see it? How are you going to respond to that call?
It's not a fight for influence. It's a fight for the people of Ukraine and indeed the entire region to get the truth about what's happening on the ground. We have seen an incredible amount of Russian propaganda, much of it blatant lies, much of it incredibly distorted, put out there about the situation on the ground. That's why we stand up here and talk about this every day. And that's why we encourage people around the world to stand up and talk about exactly what is happening in a much more truthful way.
Marie,
yes.
Just related to this, do you have any comments about President Putin's speech? In particular, the line comparing Crimea to the Temple Mount, saying that this is you look askance.
Askance.
I'm
not sure what an askance looks like.
You look askance at that.
Well, obviously, we've seen his annual address to the Federal Assembly. The Secretary met with Foreign Minister Lavrov today because, as we've always said, we disagree on, I think, some fundamental principles here that we will consistently stand up for. But there are areas where we can work together, and I'm not going to get in a back and forth, I think, with President Putin over an address he gave. What we're focused on is working together when we can and making clear when we're unhappy.
Okay, so you don't have any particular thoughts about
I don't.
These?
Yes, Saeed. And then
is that saying that the president of Russia is wrong when he says that the West has always sort of plotted and planned and so on to destabilize Russia?
Well, I would clearly not agree with that statement, Saeed. This isn't about the West. This is about the people of Ukraine, including Crimea, getting to pick who represents them and getting to pick their future, not having Russia pick it for them. Yes.
A question about Venezuela.